actually all I heard about.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Nice to meet you.
Nobody
else did. I thought we were wearing our shirts, our sneakers. Hi,
Did I put you on blast?
Yeah. Look, I got my
Those
sneakers
are actually
on.
pretty sweet.
Aren't they?
Those are pretty nice.
They're my new ones.
Those are pretty nice.
Everybody else is dressed.
I apologize for that. You know what? Next time.
Yeah.
I'll take off my jacket if you want me to.
No, you're
I got
good.
jeans on.
You are wearing jeans. Hey.
I have to talk about something later.
Okay. All right. Mason needs to project onto the. Okay.
Right back there now.
All right.
What is Oh, okay. I didn't even know what it That's all I have is just her name. I don't really have any information. Oh my God! I was like, I'll check with Lauren. I'll find out what charity does. I don't know. Her name. Oh, yes.
Jerry lives close by.
Well, and they're also fashionable.
Yeah.
So however you
If they,
want it.
yeah, if they
I
want.
got it separated. Like this is the teacher and staff. I'll separated by dates.
We'll just, yeah, we'll just have the board members if they want it. So, yeah. Oh, how about that?
By the way.
You know, girl, I just realized you spell your name that way. I kept thinking it was it. I look at him like, what? K-A-R. Wow.
As I say, my mother did that for me.
I'm just thinking phonetically, how would you even pronounce it? Like if you just read it. Carlisle. I mean, it seems like Carlisle.
Only one else.
Probably.
This is the mean and tree results.
Okay.
I was a school principal, I've been called to this, that's what I always say.
Separated by date and question.
Okay.
She sent me all this is all different.
August 16th, on the 16th. This is all.
In preparation for your conference next week, that is your gift.
Yeah, I saw another one that, what's her name, Dr. X was doing too. Their had like, yeah, it was a big part of the discussion too.
You mean the one that she's at in Singapore?
Yeah.
Mm,
I don't know.
it's sort of.
Zero clothes.
Well, that's excellent. This is actually specifically what I was looking for.
Like you and John did. Yeah, so we had 15. And I talked to Kyle, he came late though, he missed everything.
Do you have your laptop with you?
Yeah,
great.
That was all, thanks to Gary.
The only thing I have is in my car, I have a tablet, but not a laptop.
Except for one.
We're going to be doing.
But we need to have it.
I think a device could be valuable, but it's not required because there's a
That just means that
Yeah, you're up.
You want me to bring my
Mason
tablet?
is doing a phenomenal
Yeah, maybe if you
job.
could get one, that'd be awesome. Thank you, Julie.
No, logging onto the internet's another thing. I might think something.
I don't
You
care.
just use your login with your email.
No, I just gave it to Mari.
Is Julius's last name Melinda?
Yeah, I do actually.
Good morning.
Yeah, so.
Glad you're here. I know, I keep trying to get Mason.
Yeah, we have that.
No, this is excellent. This is exactly.
Yes.
No, no problem.
She knows now I can't have it. Yeah, that one. Whatever. Whatever. Evaluating. It's a time process, so.
All right, so we're waiting for Mr. Arguello just arrived, but he should be here.
All the docs that John.
Yes.
Secretary, whoever enters time and all the answers I'll get it, so Wednesday I need someone to speak.
Yeah, he was trying to.
And what's happening?
So the password to the SDLC gets is our password for
What
the.
you log in
Yeah.
to your email.
Okay, you didn't see. No worries. Okay.
This one's not.
Sorry.
Yes, I
Sauce man.
Alright, Carol's going to do
And forward that link that I just sent over to you to John.
And Giselle is still going to send him a interpreted letter, English on one side, Spanish, and I get a copy of it so I can see what's happening.
We'll talk about that.
Alright, then what we'll do is we plan to take this information and push it forward facing under a new strategic plan tab that we'll put on the website.
Okay.
And then that way, people who wanna see the notes from today will be able to see the notes from today, even if they only hear the discussion and see the discussion today. They can
Okay.
at least get the document that we've been working.
Okay, and we
Julius,
could.
are you able to, you and Heather able to hit that link?
I just did it, yeah.
Mason, this is John Arguello. District 3, District 3. And you know Terry. Yes. And you know Julius, you know. Ready?
I'm logged on.
Um, We're gonna get everybody
Morning, how are you?
logged in. Do you need a link to log in?
Talk about the webpage that you want. So I'm logged in now.
Mason
Okay.
sent an email to you.
Okay, did you send one to John?
I just sent it to
Oh,
you.
you sent it
Mason
to
asked me to.
Okay, alright.
Send your district email.
Would it be easier for you to get a computer?
I mean, it's gonna be on the screen, right?
All right. You ready? You ready?
Almost.
Okay. All right.
Alright.
I didn't know you were military.
Yeah, I was in the Navy for 7 years.
I didn't know that. Not until Julie's mentioned.
Yeah, I can tell because when we first started, it was like, we got off and he got, the way he comported. You could tell when someone's in the military, the way they conduct themselves.
Which means that you can tell when they have not been in the military. Is that right?
Well, you
Is that
can't
what
always,
you're trying to
it's
say?
not always the process.
I mean, is that-
You can tell the kid
It's not 100%.
got, nothing's 100%.
All right, so all right. Do I comport myself as if I have?
Absolutely not.
I knew it was coming, so.
If you want to do any setup or kickoff, if you guys want to do that, we could do that.
Okay.
I'm waiting on some paper. We're gonna do a little icebreaker after we do the setup, and then we'll just kind of get started from there.
Okay.
All right, I called the board workshop for April 2nd on strategic planning to order. Mason, you have the floor.
Chair, if it's okay, can I go ahead and just?
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Board members and members of the community that may be watching today via YouTube or those that may view the stream later, want to introduce Mason Jones. Mason and I have previously worked on some strategic planning when I was Chief Information Officer in OCPS on digital visualization. Very impressed with the process. My team members at the time were also very impressed with the process as he met with the various department heads. And so kind of thinking about conceptually how we work through strategic planning, I thought that it would be good for us maybe to get somebody outside of the education space to really help the board frame what we want the district to look like and how we want to operate for the next however long the board decides. So in doing that and thinking about the process that Mason took us through and thinking about the process that we need to go through, to me, there was no better choice than that. Mason currently serves as Chief Transformation Officer for one of our partners, UDT. UDT isn't necessarily involved in this at all, so this doesn't really have anything to do with UDT's relationship with the district. This is entirely about us and our strategic planning. So that will be the last and only mention. But I wanted to bring Mason here. He is from out of town, and we will break for lunch around 12 o'clock. I think it's 12, right? 12 to 12:30. And in the Bill Collins conference room, we will have lunch for the board at that time. So our plan is to go 10 to 2 today, and then kind of level set at the end and determine where we go next. But I'm going to turn it over to Mason.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. All right. Does everybody have a pen? So I wish that I could say I discovered some of these techniques because I'm smart or somebody smarter than me explain them to me, but the truth is most of what I'm sharing with you I learned from making lots of mistakes, some of those mistakes more than once. And one of those mistakes is that you get to this level where we're doing things like strategic planning and you wind up with a much smaller group of people, and those groups of people have very different ways of seeing the world and the way you lead and all that kind of stuff. So one of the biggest challenges that we deal with is we confuse the difference between alignment and agreement. And what we're going to be doing today is separating those two things. Okay, so from my point of view, alignment means you understand your own perspective and the perspectives of those around you. And that can be finished, right? Because we can be in a state where I understand what Julius says and Julius understands me. That does not mean we agree. We don't have to agree to understand each other. So when we separate alignment from agreement, it makes it a lot easier to compromise and get to a place where we're kind of directionally on the same page on the things that matter the most. And so that's what we're going to be working on in our time together today. So what we're going to do to kick things off is I want you to think at Disney World. Let me give you 60 seconds. And when I say go, I just want you to write as many things as you can think of that have to do with Disney World from your perspective. Go. Seconds. All right, stop and just count the number. All right, looks like how many you have, Terry?
17.
So, okay, Julius, you got the shortest list. How many is yours?
5.
5. All right, can I have yours?
Yep. Okay, very much.
Okay. So, how many, given that we've all been to Disney World, how many items would you say, we have 7 on Julius's sheet, which is, it kind of limits how many we could all be in agreement on. How many do we think we're going to be in agreement on? Everybody's going to say the same thing.
3, 4.
2 or 1.
Okay, 3 or 4, 2 or 1. All right, let's give this a shot. Customer
Service.
Customer service. Detail oriented. Family focused. Do we get that one?
Mhm.
Do you get that?
Or part, can we just get part?
I did family.
I did family too.
Protect.
Protect of the brand. Or
Yeah.
protect-
Yeah, protect the brand. They're forward thinking.
I don't have any of those, but I know where you're going, so
Yep.
I'll get to the next one.
Yeah. So just because you guys don't have the same point of view about Disney World doesn't mean that you don't enjoy it or that you could not enjoy it even if you went together. Because it actually happens just like that with your husband and your kids and your friends. And the thing to take away from that is in every situation, I mean, think about Disney. How many times you've been there? We've seen the movies. Like, everybody knows who Walt Disney is and what the way they represent the brand. And I've done this exercise. By the way, I've never even had one thing that everybody got the same. Not once. And so when we're dealing with something as nuanced as strategic planning for something like a school system and a district, like the chances that you're going to be on the same page are nearly zero, right? Which is the whole reason why we want to frame things up and kind of have an eyes wide open conversation about things separate from having to be in agreement. And so that is the whole approach for this process. It's called lean activation. And where we're going to start today is, and you guys who were in the interview process know, we had basically 3 buckets. We had what are we doing from a vision perspective? Why are we doing that? And then what's the perfect 10? And what we've done is basically aggregated your perspectives into those lanes. And so we're just going to step through those. So we're going to go, what is it? And then we'll do the why, then we'll do the 10. The last one is obstacles and threats. And the way that we'll handle it is when we get into what, the first thing we want to do is consolidate the list. All right, and so that's why I kind of have it shared up and I sent out the link. So you'll basically kind of go through there and it'll be, some of them will be pretty obvious. They're different ways of saying the same things. And we want to basically take this list of 12 or 13 things and just get it as short as we can without losing the essence of any of the perspective that's in there. And then make sure everybody's on the same page about that. And then what we're going to do is vote. And I'll tell you how many votes you get once we see what the final count on the list is. Now, the thing is, we're going to vote in two different ways. You're going to get one vote on a down vote. Okay, and the reason for that is you'll basically pick the thing on that list from your perspective that's the least important thing on the list. Right? The upvote will be the 2, 3, 4 things that are the most important things. And it is this voting that will result in conversations about why you voted. We'll make sure that the things that tend to like rise to the top, why is that the most important thing to the group? Is that the most important thing to the group? And if someone tends to downvote something that other things got more votes on, we're just going to talk about it, right? Usually whenever there's a disconnect, it means that somebody sees something or has a perspective that the rest of the group doesn't. Sometimes that's valuable to know, and then we can talk about that, and then the perspectives will shift. But at the end of the day, when we're done with this, the voting in each area will tell us what's most important. And I would say this too, and I believe it was in our conversation, Terry, we were talking about specifically about what the vision statement or the mission statement might look like when this is finished. I would say we're not going to be wordsmithing so that at the end of the day today, we have like something you could put on a piece of paper and say, this is the vision. What we're going to walk out of here today with is the molecular level, like the fundamentals of what you would need to be on the same page about to produce the vision or the mission, right? But it would be the working directional content that grounds that the creation of those items. Does that make sense? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is consolidate the what. And so what I would like for you to do is just kind of scroll through, and what you'll do is you'll say something like, I think, and I'm just saying this out loud, this doesn't mean that I think they are, but you might say, Heather, you may say 3 and 5 seem like they could be the same. And then we'll look at those, and if they are, then I'm just going to collapse those down. So as you just kind of read through the list, and then identify which items that you feel like probably kind of have a relationship.
Are we identifying them verbally or in the Excel spreadsheet?
You could just, yeah, as you're looking in it, if you just tell me, Terry, then I'll merge them for you.
Yeah, I didn't get the email.
Here, you just look.
Oh, I sent it to your Yahoo address. I'm sorry, Julius, that was the only one that I had.
Oh, got it now.
I would say that facilitating transformational learning experiences and lead with innovation are like cousins.
Yep. Right, so what I'm gonna do is that's number 5 and number 7. Does anybody object to merging 5 and 7?
I would say we could collapse in the enabling students to discover and pursue choosing paths with early exposure to paths.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 8 and number 9?
Yes.
I'm gonna merge 8 and 9. Does anybody object?
Yeah. was 9? 'Cause it was
They're
already-
together now at 8.
Okay, oh, they're together is what you're saying,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
You didn't
yeah.
delete it, you just merged
We're
it.
just
Bing-
merging.
yeah,
Okay,
bingo, yeah, we're not gonna get rid of anything.
Yeah, I thought it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, merging.
What else might fit together?
Mason, so these are molecular level statements of a vision.
Yeah, basically like what drives the vision? What matters most or is most essential when we think about who we need to be and where we're going?
I mean, these seem to be all very soft in nature, right? There's nothing, and there's nothing about, let's say, integrity or service or communication or duty or responsibility that we carry. Like, in the end, I mean, there's nothing in here that states what our constitutional mandate is, and I think that would be pretty key.
Okay, why don't you give me the narrative? You want to summarize that for me real quick, and I'll add it in here.
Now, there's something in 11 that speaks to the soft skills, like communication skills, how to speak, how to articulate when you're angry. So I think depending on what his list includes, part of his list may be in that, and part of his list may be its own separate component.
Okay. While we're waiting for John's piece there, are there any other items that seem like they might have a relationship that we could merge?
I would say the 10 and 11 possibly, because it talks about the environment, a safe space for students to explore.
Now, one thing I think we spoke about during our interview
Yeah.
is this sounds very student specific, which is the core business. But there's the operational aspect of the district too, that is like administratively what we expect out of our employees and staff. So to me, it's like even though you're technically creating one strategic plan, but we also need to put items that we measure that are looking at employee performance, transparency, fidelity of numbers and things like that. I'm throwing a lot of things out there, but the point is that there's a governance aspect of the school district, not just the student performance aspect. So I don't know if you need to combine those together, or are they two parallel, concepts that run, simultaneously.
Great.
Well, I'm open to listen to.
No, I'm not facilitating this, so I'm gonna stop talking.
But I'm just saying, but that's the whole point of the workshop. Though. So I don't mind people engaging and saying.
I think eventually we're going to have those tactics, but right now, I think we're just kind of looking broad.
That's not tactic. I mean, like transparency, for example, is not a tactic. It's
I understand
strategic.
that. So go ahead and add it so that we can vote it or not.
Because we do talk about it a little bit, like on 6, we do talk about performance in destination workplace.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's my point is, like, I know the core business is the student's success, but in order to have student success, you gotta have operational success and governing
Yeah.
success is what I'm trying to.
So on that point, I get the point that you're making, right? Let's separate the work environment that you're in from the experience an employee would have as an example, right? So that's what you're saying. Based on that, are you the point you're making, Julius, is that 10 is more about the environmental aspect and 11 is more about the student experience?
Exactly, and that's why I didn't want to
got
combine
it.
them together, because but then you can also say, well, we want students to fail too, not students to fail, but I'm talking not be
Fail
afraid
forward.
to fail forward, is what I'm saying, like, challenge themselves.
Mhm.
Don't ever not take an honors class because you're afraid, of not getting a good grade. No, challenge yourself, if you get a C in that class, that's how we ever reach your highest potential. If you're just always taking easy classes all the time, you're not reaching your full potential. But then there's the failure of the employees willing to take on a new program or willing to say, you know what, Dr. Shanoff, I think the software programs can succeed. but there's no guarantee, but let's try it, you know what I mean? If it doesn't work, then we scratch it and we don't, beat them on top of the head, because I want to encourage, employees to think outside of the box as well.
Let's tease up number 11. I think we should tease that one out a little bit, because what I think we did in that one, and it's just the way that you and I were doing the interview and the conversational aspect of it.
Yep.
But I think part of number 11 is the environment where we emphasize how important it is to model that behavior. Modeling that behavior really is an environmental thing, right? So maybe the modeling of the behavior belongs more in item number 10. Communication skills, how we speak to students, addressing disconnection and isolation within the student body.
So to me, that's the one where I said I thought those could merge together.
Yeah, I get what you're like. What is your read on that, Julius? Because I do believe some of that is environmental, but I think there is a point here that there's also the student experience. So
Well, as long as they exist, I'm not gonna get too bogged down into how many buckets we create. The point is that it is addressed, and how it's addressed, I'm not too concerned about.
Let's see if we do this.
Are you saying that they don't necessarily belong together?
No, I
Julius.
think we're saying that maybe they could check that, Julius. Check what I just did. And number 10.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The soft skills thing,
Yes.
where when students are angry and we're giving them skills to know how they can articulate that and use words instead of just emotion.
Acting out.
Yeah, acting out. To me, that one feels separate.
Right.
But a respectful and safe environment is something we create, where we're modeling that behavior and we're expecting administration and staff to represent those values. And is that in alignment with what you were saying?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Are you ready, Mason?
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Operating in a transparent, honest, and fair manner that complies with law and expectations of our community in all aspects of our duties. And these are the 3 bullets.
Operating in a transparent, honest, fair manner.
That complies with law and expectations of our community in all aspects of our duties.
Okay, let me read this back. I don't know if I got operating in a transparent, honest, fair manner that complies with law and the expectations of the community in all aspects of our duties.
Yes, and these are the 3 bullets.
Okay.
Being honest at all times in all dealings and functions.
Okay.
Perform our duties with responsibility and integrity.
And third one.
Serving with the understanding that we serve the community, not an institution.
That we serve a community, not an institution.
Yes.
I want to be a little bit more specific on the first one he mentioned. He was like being honest in all dealings. I want to be specific about that. Is being fully informed of all dealings. Because sometimes I feel like, I'm just being honest here. Word. Sometimes people have natural biases, and so they may not explore all the pros of a specific recommendation that don't serve their best interest. Or they may not say all the cons. They might just say, hey, kind of tell you all the pros, but maybe not the cons. And or vice versa, whichever one, kind of helps their particular position. And so being specific on what honesty means is just being fully to give the full picture or the full scope of in dealings and things like that. Like, when the school board makes a decision, I think it's best for us to have an informed decision of what the full list of pros and cons are that are available to them. Because obviously not everyone knows everything. There's things that they're not aware of when they're researching a particular item on the agenda. But when they do present, that they kind of like, take it out unbiasedly, present all pros and cons that are known or should have been known when dealing with dealings. So it's not
That's
just being honest.
transparency and integrity, not
Yeah,
honesty.
yeah, I'm just being very okay, then that's the
May
thing. Well, I'm being more specific.
May I, yeah, I like where you're going with that. If I can add to that, because when I think about this plan, I'm not thinking about board members specifically. I'm thinking about everyone else who has to actually embody this. We have this concept, in one of the places that I've worked before called Talk Straight, which means I'm just gonna tell you everything, and we're gonna talk it out. We're not, whether or not you agree with me or not, I'm gonna tell you all the information. And I do feel that sometimes in institutions, one might feel like you're not able to do that because you're afraid of the consequences. So I love that concept of we're just going to talk straight. I think it's a little bit different than just being honest and fair. It's like, here's all of the information. Is that where you were going?
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah.
everything. I'm not gonna be afraid of telling you. We're gonna make decisions based on information that's available and not on fear or, wanting to align with X, Y, or Z person.
So factual, objective.
I think that's what I mean objectivity. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your transparency and being so against the word honesty.
I'm not against the word honesty, one. Two, I feel like we're collaborating in this. If we all feel like the word honest should stay, we can keep it. But I think, and I could be wrong, that we're talking about beyond being honest. We're talking about being factual and objective, which is a little bit different. And I'm also expanding this concept outside of board members into the people who actually have to do this day to day in order to make decisions.
I'm not sure they're the biggest problem, but it's fine.
So what's most important at this stage is that, John, I want to make sure that what you're saying is being captured and that we understand what you're saying. And so did we misrepresent anything that you just
No.
shared? Okay, that's what matters most right now. Anybody have anything to add to build on this? Thank you for what you added there, Terry. Are we good? Is there anything else that you want to put on the table, John? All right. Anything else in here that we could?
Actually, innovation.
Anything else in here that we can collapse?
I think the top one, 3 could probably, I'm kind of thinking of it with the leading innovation.
Yep.
But I think 4 also maybe, I don't know, or if we do 3 and 4 together.
Yeah, merge 3 and 4, do 3, and could 3 and 4, if they're merged, also fall into 7?
Student center mantra.
Capture what the future looks like and getting kids within you to drive success also could be number 4, also could be number 8.
Innovation. Or
4 and 8, enabling students to discover and pursue a chosen path with early exposure.
Yes,
yeah, I'm okay with that.
absolutely.
And I'm just thinking about both the point that John and Terry were both making around honesty, transparency, objectivity. That's pretty fundamentally like performance-driven destination workplace. So you can kind of make a link that you're really not having the kind of work environment that you're talking about having if you don't have honesty and transparency and commitment to shared outcomes. Those are kind of best practices to that. Like, what are your thoughts on that, John? Like, where do you see this? Like, in the end, if you get honesty and transparency, you expect that administration and school leadership are performing, working at a higher level environmentally, or what's happening?
I mean, I think it says it all that it's not there to begin with, right? well, I'm not sure that there's another $2 billion organization in the world that would have gotten to this point without those things being on there.
Yeah.
And that says everything about this district.
But if you want that, would we expect that to impact and put us in a position to have a performance-driven work environment?
I think it would change the dynamic and culture of this district completely.
So this puts us in a position where number 6, we could revise number 6 a little bit if we want to. This is the question. Do we want to tie in transparency and honesty and objectivity as a part of what it means to have a performance-driven work
Yes.
environment?
I absolutely 100%.
Okay, so
Me personally.
what would that look like?
Yeah, I don't know if that's like part of the culture or part of the performance driven. Because when I think of performance driven, see, because the definition workplace and performance driven are kind of like really separate things. But you know,
It's two sides. It could be
Yeah.
two sides of the same coin.
Because when I think of performance driven, the first thing I think of, kind of like doing your exercise earlier with Disney, I think of what Dr. Shanoff was mentioning at the last board meeting, was the importance of like return on investment, you know, efficiency. You know, when we invest in a particular program or invest in a particular technology, we want to see that, you know, deliver results. To me, that's what performance driven is for. So you talk about honesty, it's like how you do that. You know what I'm saying? So like to me, performance is the what, how you do it with integrity, with honesty. So to me, that's where. But see, they can go hand in hand. So I'm not married to it.
they
The point is
cannot-
they both need to be there somewhere in the plan.
Yep.
Where they are, it doesn't really matter.
It has to do with how you guys want to think about performance. Like I'm thinking of it potentially where, like in football, some teams are known from a performance perspective as a defensive team. So even though it's football, and then you perform in football by scoring touchdowns and right, but the performance on a given team is defined specifically by the culture and values of that team, the principles of that team. So I think that's probably where we want to be a little bit more clear when we say performance driven. Like right now, I think it's almost a little too. It needs to be. You could reinforce it a little bit, and you could be specific. So when we say performance, we mean honesty and transparency and objectivity. You couldn't just get higher attendance at the expense of not having those things, because that would not be what performance should look like.
Gotcha.
That's what you're saying,
An
right?
analysis of our graduation rates.
Got a
Yeah.
graduation.
We could make
rate
our
the first
graduation
number.
rate 99%
Yeah.
at the cost of graduating kids whose diplomas mean all completely different things.
Right. So Terry, what are your thoughts? Do you think incorporating the honesty, transparency into the performance-based environment, does that make sense to you? Where you want to see it integrated in that way? Julius is saying that maybe we could keep those things a little bit more separate. Terry was saying that makes sense. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it should be at whatever process that you're using, it would be at the highest level so that it drains down into all the processes.
Yeah, and I can agree with that. And the reason why I wanted it separate, because I believe honesty and integrity should apply to each thing that we do. Because if we just put it into performance, it's only like, oh, I only, you know, it's just a semantics thing. But it's only like the appearance of honesty only in performance. Then every other aspect doesn't need to have it. That's why I kind of like it. It's like a guiding principle for everything that the district does. It's kind of like the manifesto for IT. You know, when we do Agile manifesto, they put like guiding principles and then they put the specific things. Hey, working software over whatever. Now I'm getting technical here, but I know we have an IT guy here. But I'm saying they put a manifesto first. They sit there and say, okay, these are the guiding principles we want to live by, and then they started detailing out what they do. So those guiding principles should apply to everything that we do. And so honesty and integrity is like non-negotiable. It should always be present. no
Those are
matter what.
features of the environment, right?
And thanks for acknowledging Pete as the IT guy. I appreciate that.
Well, you're the
You
super
have
now.
you have a
sir.
secret title now.
The IT background.
All right. Anything else in here that we can merge? Where does three go with 7? Is that what you were saying, Terry? Heather, you good with that?
Oh, is that what you said?
I think that's where it says, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 can definitely be merged with something else rather than standing alone.
Does 3 go, does it go with 7 or does it go with 8?
I think it was 8 originally, because it was a paths, the learning paths.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think it could work in either one. Both of them are student centered.
I dropped it in 8. If you'd rather see it in 7,
That's
just let me know. Okay. All right. What about number 7?
Soft skills. Soft skills. Driven, angry, hard to articulate, not happy or satisfied. I don't know what that means.
I think that's where I don't know if it was in our interview or something else, but when we talk about, and it's a challenging one because what is the responsibility of the school district in not just developing literacy for the student, but developing a whole student that is respectful. You know what I mean? So we're talking about someone that knows how to share, for instance. You know what I mean? Like again, people can argue: is that the role of the family, or is that the role of the district? At least while they're at the district, we can at least teach them to how to get along with other people. That's why we have team sports, we have events, we have group work to learn how to teach students soft skills such as learning how to interact with one another, how to deal with their emotions. You know, because and part of that reasoning is we have a high, well, any district would have high assessor incidents, we have high fights, we have high things like that. We have discipline issues. And every district has them. I'm not saying it's unique to Osceola County, but one way to do that is to develop the soft skills component of the student too. To be respectful, say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, or whatever the case may be.
Does that go under the 5? Was it 5 with all the, no, not 5, I'm sorry. Facilitating transformational experiences for every student. And we can add, I think what you're saying is developing, I'm just talking here.
I think it'd be more into like respectful and safe environment if I was to integrate
So
it
the
there.
environment, okay.
Yeah, it's more like the environment, creating a
That makes
culture
sense.
of like,
Yeah.
hey, students know how to express themselves when there's something, they know to ask questions too.
Mhm.
That's the other thing that's kind of like self-serving learning. If a student has a problem, don't just sit there and wait. Talk to a teacher. They keep saying, oh, this person's been bullying me for 5 years, but then you ask them, did you ever speak to a teacher, or did you ever bring it up to a principal? And they may not have said no. They may have, or may have not. But the point is, it should be 100%. When somebody feels like they're not getting the experience they want out of the school district, regardless if it's discipline or not, they should be able to be self-motivated to, or have the courage to express themselves and articulate that to somebody, that they're not happy with something going on, and then that way the school district can address it in an appropriate way.
I moved that one up underneath 3. Because a lot of what you're talking about is going to depend on those values being lived day to day and demonstrated and modeled by teachers and administration, right? So that almost could become a dimension of what you mean when you say this is a performance-based environment. Performance means if somebody's sitting in an observant classroom watching a teacher, teachers are demonstrating this. These are the kinds of things you would expect to see if you're going to visit one of our schools in the future.
Right.
Does that feel right?
Dude, where do you get like continuous improvement? Because I always hear continuous improvement from the top down, but never really much from the bottom up. Because a lot of times, and that's not just unique to this, there's a lot of organizations, people are afraid to voice their opinion for the retribution. You know what I mean? They don't want to challenge their boss and say, hey, have you thought about doing this? Where does that fit into the strategic plan? Where the bottom feels
The
empowered
environment.
to contribute, I mean, in a respectful manner, obviously. But, I want to create an environment where they're not afraid to say, hey, the bus loop isn't right. There's a cog in this, in the system somewhere. I want them to feel empowered to again, in a respectful, professional manner, but where they feel they have the ability to voice how they can add value to the district. or in process of improve?
We should talk about it a little bit. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, it was identified that failure in the school, failure should be viewed as an opportunity for growth. There's an exploratory aspect in the environment that enables students to discover. Okay, so that, to me, if you don't have continuous improvement as something that's real in the environment, then that's not gonna happen. So, like, they're just again, that's like two sides of the same coin. One of them is about how do we make the school environment better, but the other one's like how are we getting students in their own experience to it's a continuous improvement thing, right? So, do we want to build on that here and make sure that we understand continuous improvement and the process of that is something that we embrace at all levels?
Yeah, what's the term for that? I know, you're like continuous improvement. There's like a whole like structure for that. Oh my god.
DMAIC cycle.
The what?
DMAIC.
It is a cycle. Anyway, it's not coming to me right now. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like something's wrong, let's fix it, create a prototype, and then go back and redo it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, kind of like that.
that.
And not always waiting for that planned time. It should be
Yeah.
like anybody has an opinion.
Of course, at all
Don't
times.
wait till the quarterly meeting or something like
Mhm.
that. If something's bothering you or something's slowing you down, or even at the quarterly meeting, some people don't have the courage to do it because they're afraid of, retribution.
Design thinking. Yeah.
Now, one aspect that I noticed too, that's a little bit absent, is I think governance responsibility. Like there should almost be a code to like for the school board itself or for senior cabinet members, what do we abide by? Like it's almost like an oath. Like what do we sit there and say? We take this responsibility seriously, kind of like in a strategic plan to sit there and say, okay, we are going to, stick to the strategic plan. It's almost like a vision statement for us. We're going to use resources in the most efficient manner. You know what I mean? Because this is all very employee centric. But is there any kind of setting guiding principles that we want to set as the actual governing board itself, or for that include the everybody here in the dais? I'm saying it could be like the chiefs and above. Do we want to have like a set of guiding principles that guides us to say that hey, if we're going to deviate from the strategic plan, it's because it really makes sense, or it's going to save us money. You know what I'm saying? You want to have like some kind of something
It shouldn't
that
be
guides us.
different for any of the levels. It should be the same for
It should be
everyone.
the same. Yeah, and I think I totally agree, John. A lot of that is in here. Like right now, I think if you kind of read back through here, and I think this is why, hey, listen, the deliverable today is not a vision statement, because we're dealing with things that are more fundamental than that, right? Like you should be able to create a summary of guiding principles and a vision statement and a mission statement from this, because what you're doing is getting to the essence of what really matters, right? For the student and for the staff within the district. Right? So you want to take one more look, make sure nothing really important is missing, and that there's not any more opportunities to merge.
I'm just thinking ideas now. I hate that because once I go to the next step, I want to go, what about safety and security? We haven't really talked about that
No.
at all as part of,
There was like one little sub bullet in here
Yeah.
that talks about safety, but I mean obviously safety in the school is a very important topic. So if we need to elevate that, let's talk about it. Let's see, where is that?
Now, from a strategic plan, I'm trying to think of like when I was in school, we talked about the security triad. Like the more secure you make something, the less convenient or hospitable that environment is. So
There's a
I'm trying to say like
balance.
I can lock everything down, but then no one will be able to visit or be like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like
Well,
so. Is there a balance? Do we want a strategic plan? How do we want to
May I-
discuss that balance?
may I ask you specifically about that, because when you're talking about safety and security, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. We don't have to input physical strategy here, because that already comes from the state anyway. So when you're talking about safety and security, do you mean how we are creating an environment where students and employees feel safe, or are you talking about the actual like
The
physical?
parameters.
A little bit of both. Like a perfect example, I saw somebody talking about, metal detectors. But then some people argued, well, what kind of school do we want to have? Do we want metal detectors everyone to feel like a prison? Or do we, because that is technically a safety thing, and the state of Florida doesn't tell you have to have metal detectors, it's our discretion. But do we want to look at our strategic plan and say, okay, we don't want metal detectors to feel like a prison? You know what I'm trying to say? To what level of degree of security do we want before we sit there and say it's too much
Yeah.
versus not being enough? So I think
this is
that's kind of where I'm going.
This is kind of back to where,
So
If we get this part right, it basically becomes the filter that you have to push decisions like that through.
Correct. I'm just trying to break the
Yeah,
parameters.
yeah,
The
so-
parameters of what we would be willing to do.
Right now in line 4, we have an area called respectful and safe environment, and the items that are emphasized there. Question is, do we want to emphasize anything else based on what we have right now? So for us to have the respectful and safe environment that we're looking for, is this enough, or is there a major gap here?
can I add a bullet? Achieving a conducive environment while maintaining safety and security for all members of our educational community.
Say that again, John.
Achieving a conducive educational environment while maintaining safety and security for all members of our educational community. Just as a starting point for the discussion.
See, and that's a philosophical thing that I can appreciate what Mr. Ergo was saying. It's creating a conducive environment first, conducive educational environment, and then you secure it. It's not like, hey, we secure it at all costs and then create an educational environment. That, it sounds like a small nuance, but that really changes the focus of how the board views it, to what degree that we secure things. You secure it at the cost of educating kids, we still have to have open forums in the middle, so I'm just, maybe I'm just talking a little too much, but I figure there's like a workshop for strategic planning, and to me, those are the consequences of creating a plan, is that, well, first of all, we should be able to follow through with it. If we follow through with it, we all understand we're on the same sheet of music, so to speak.
John,
Yes,
tell
and
me
I
a
think
little
we're-
bit more about achieving a conducive educational environment for all members.
I
Tell me
think we're
more
missing
about
the
that.
word safe there. I think it was conducive and safe.
What is that?
A conducive educational environment?
Yeah, when you think of that, like, what is that for you? Like, what do you mean when you say that?
I think a holistic kind of lens, when not just a safe and secure, but everything that has to do with providing the educational environment, which is then protected, as Mr. Melendez kind of said. One which is it's lends itself to creativity.
Yeah.
Into different opportunities. In terms of it being our main objective to educate these children.
Do we want to take this, that's great. Is this building on number 5 or number 6? Because as the way that you're wording it is that that's almost like the precondition to how you would even define safety, right? Because you need to start there and implement safety. That's what you said too, right? And implement safety after the fact. So is that more about leading with innovation and facilitating transformational learning experiences, or is that a part of this whole enabling students to discover and pursue a chosen path, where they have like early exposure to a lot of options to really figure out what resonates with them?
I like the second one
The
because
second
in the end it's directional.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. All right, what I want to do based on this conversation is maybe we'll do this, Julius, in this box here where we have respectful and safe environment. I'm gonna put that at the top of the box.
Yeah, because failure is a sub-function or a function of.
Does that feel better like that?
Gotcha.
Okay. I mean, to the point, creativity and innovation is not gonna happen. It can't happen in an environment that's overly locked down, but it also can't happen in chaos, right?
Right.
So. Okay. Are we good with we got 6 now. All right, so what you're gonna get, so let's talk a little bit about the importance of prioritization. What should happen when we get into this part of it is there's not gonna be 100% agreement. And this is good, because then we're gonna have more conversations, all right? And so the whole thing is not about, like, when you're not in a session like this, it may be that, I don't know how y'all's sessions run, but on my leadership team, like, we can argue just like the best of them. And it's just it's a normal part of it. There should be no arguing here with what we're doing, because every one of you have valid points of view here, and we need to make sure we get that out. So we're gonna do the voting, and we're gonna continue having conversations until everything's clearly understood. It's like math, right? So you can't do calculus if you didn't learn algebra. And this thing is gonna build on itself. So it's super important that we're on the same page here before we move into the why, right? Because the why is just an extension of this conversation we're having now. So I want you to take a minute to go through and look at what we've got. John, if you want to, you can I can disconnect from the monitor. Oh, you got it? Get 3 votes on the upside. You can use those votes however you wanted. If there was something that was super important that you really wanted to make sure was prioritized, you could put 2 or 3 votes on a single item. And you're gonna downvote one item. Downvote does not mean it's not important. It means that it's the least important based on the list. Everything on this list is important. So 3 upvotes, 1 downvote.
And Mark will not be voting.
Oh, you're not gonna vote.
I am not voting. I am not a board member.
We do have a little section, okay, well, never
I
mind.
know. I will recuse myself. Unless I channel my inner
Are we actually
District
using
5.
the upvote function, or are you just putting like little
Just put a 1.
marks? Okay.
Just put a 1 in there, unless you're gonna vote more than once for an item.
Oh, so we exactly have 4, so we're gonna have 3 and 1, only 1 goes out. My keyboard died, I'll just tell you. Got it.
think I messed up your formula.
That's okay. All right,
You're gonna have to go fix that formula.
that's all right. All right. What I'm gonna do now is we got a lot of alignment. So you have a three-way tie. What you're gonna get now is one vote. I'm gonna delete the votes. Does everybody see what happened here on?
Three-way tie.
Did we misunderstand your directions?
Yeah,
No.
did we misunderstand the assignment?
Nope, not at all. You're gonna get one vote against the top three. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is delete.
We need to wait for Heather to get back.
So we're voting again?
You're gonna vote again.
Only for one?
One.
One of each, one up, one down?
Nope, just one. One up vote. One up vote for the top three. Which of the top three items is the most important?
Excuse me, please could you just state which the top three, I think I know, but just to confirm. I think it was operating which
Yeah,
one was
I
the one that
I reordered them, so 3,
You
4, and
reordered
5. Yeah.
Okay. I understand, got it.
All right, we have a
Just the top?
critical responsibility for you. You wanna?
Got it.
Oh, yes. So I resorted based on the voting.
Okay.
So number 3, 4, and 5 were the top three votes.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get one vote now across each of the top three. So of those three, which one's most important to you, Heather?
One vote.
One vote. You get one more vote. The vote is
You moved my vote.
I just moved your
Oh,
items to the
move the
top.
thing. Okay.
I know it's weird
Wait
to
a
see your machine
second.
get taken over, like, the remote.
Between items 4, you get one more vote between 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
4 and 5.
We still like them. This is not like, okay,
No.
we're like
Yes.
denying one, you know
Don't,
what I mean? I feel
they,
like
they
I'm.
don't have feelings. It's okay. I feel like I'm not able to. Why is this happening? Yeah. What's going on? The machines.
Refresh it and
He's
see it.
trying to take your vote.
Yeah. What's happening?
Where's the integrity in this process? I want to recount.
Are you trying to vote for 5?
Yes, because you're in it, right? Is that what's happening?
No, it should be fine.
Let me move. Maybe I was.
It is him because
Oh,
this
he's
happened
in it
before.
while
I
you were-
know it's.
Okay.
Well, that didn't work because now we have a tie. Okay.
How do we have a tie?
2 votes
Two,
for
two, two.
one and 2 votes for another.
But it shouldn't. Oh yeah, it is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thought the shit was a tiebreaker.
No.
Like,
We'll take our names
this is
off the
this-
top.
this is
You
like
don't
the
have to
Senate
see who- you
president,
don't have to
like the
see
vice
who voted for
president never
what.
votes. And
I am not, therefore I am not the
All right.
tiebreaker.
We actually do need a tiebreaker.
You're kidding me, Mason.
Are,
I'm not gonna
do we
be
want to
the one.
argue our points?
I think that it's important for.
Yeah, let's start there. So let's,
Okay.
John, let's start with you, and then we'll just go around through Julius over to Heather. Okay, so for the
I don't
vote that you
vote,
just
apparently.
made between 5 and 6.
We're going around. I'm last.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, 4 and 5. John, you voted 4. Why did that one feel more important to you?
Because it doesn't matter what your operation is, if you operate with integrity and honesty and transparency, then you're gonna attract better individuals to work for you. You're gonna have a better product at the end of the day. The type of product that you create is determined by the type of people that you hire. So if we're hiring teachers, they're all here to teach. It's not like you're gonna hire machinists to teach our kids unless that's the class that they're taking. So, but if you're operating at a high level with integrity and everything else, then you build credibility and trust. And in the end, that's our duty here, is to do everything with stewardship. So
Yep.
everything else is tactical.
Heather, let's just stay on this one since you voted on that one as well. Heather, what was your
So
rationale?
my aspect of it was it turns it to the operational side more so with this one, talking about our employees and creating a workforce for them, a workplace for them. So the lead with innovation, that one, I think it can go into all aspects, but it had more of a student focus there. So making sure we've got both sides of the house.
And then Julius, what was your rationale for upvoting 5?
And they were both like super close. That's why I was like, either one could be a good answer. But the main reason though is why we're here. It really is student focused. Even though I mentioned before in a prior conversation, what about the governance aspect? But it was leading with the students. The whole purpose of why we're in existence, or should be, is to see the students achieve their full potential. And I just think that everything with them, teaching them how to become leaders, make decisions for themselves, ask questions, become a leader in themselves is the whole reason why we're here.
Yep.
Then to me it's like a 1A and then a 1B is let's operate efficiently and with integrity.
Yep.
But I just do believe that the main core mission, we're an education district and students are number one priority.
Are you coming at this more from the point of view of how people are gonna, like when this gets messaged out? Like what is it that you want people to see and know first?
Correct.
I got it.
Yeah, we want to grow leaders. We want to grow student leaders.
I got
When
it.
they
I got
graduate
what
that
you're saying.
stage, they have a purpose in life. It's
Yeah.
not even just about the degree means something. They know where they're going. And I need them to become leaders of their own life in order to figure out what direction they want to do at the next step.
I got it. Terry?
I will agree with Board Member Melendez. The reason why we are a school district is because we are educating students. And students, for me, if it's everything we talk about today, I'm fine with it. Although I do think that the operations aspect is extremely important, of course, but at the end of the day, the operations aspect exists because of the students.
So that's why I picked the operational one as my second vote there, because the lead with innovation and facilitating an experience for every student to me was our student. It's kind of, I think those two could even be merged together. We probably could have collapsed those down because it is all student driven in those.
Yeah.
Are you saying 3 and 5 really are pointing at the same fundamental thing?
I think so. I think we probably
What
could
do you guys
have
think about that?
collapsed
I can definitely see aspects of that.
No, because 3 is again, it's an administrative function. 5
No.
is a student.
I think you're looking at it wrong.
Yeah, I guess that's the way
The
I'm
3
looking at it.
cell is the lead with innovation and
The
facilitating.
top one.
The top one is number
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, facilitating transformational learning experiences for every student.
He's talking about
Like-
3 on the side,
Yeah,
so of your
3.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The fact that that's all 3, that row. So we're saying put 3, that 3 and 5 could go together.
Mm,
3 isn't anything operational.
The only thing that gets me off is leading with innovation. To me, the leading with innovation is the part that comes from the administrative function. So if you want to do the
True.
second part of it,
Point
like the
there.
second part, facilitating transformation learning experience, could be merged with 5. But 3 is, I want leaders to sit there and say, okay, let's come up with creative programs. Does IB work or not work? Does AVID work or not
Then
work?
to me, that goes then into
And then
number
the second part can be.
4 with performance-driven workplace, leading with innovation.
Yeah.
That those 2 parts could go together.
You're saying that
So you
3
could
and
split
4?
it and put one in each.
3
Yeah.
could go, so
Okay.
there were
Okay.
aspects of those went into each
Yeah.
of the other 2.
I can agree with that. Yep.
Okay. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now based on that, how would we do the vote? Like, now you get vote one more time, and you gotta vote between 4 and 5.
Oh, you, interesting. Great. Okay. I don't love this.
I don't either.
Cause yeah, man.
Well, to me, it's the same logic. They're both good. We're gonna do both.
You're gonna do both. This has more to do with, as you think about the fundamentals here and then how you're gonna use this to build external narrative and make your decisions. What's the first thing you're making a decision based off of? Operations or the students?
Oh, well, say no more, sir. Say no more.
Even the operations.
Say less.
Yeah. All right. Nice job. This got pretty clean. Respectful and safe environment is super important, but it's almost table stakes because any district that you go to is gonna have to have some piece about what they're doing and how they've defined that and what's being invested in, et cetera. Where you're gonna drive differentiation in terms of who you are and how you engage the student body is top piece, and then we know operations underneath have to be designed to enable and support that. To the point you made, John, if honesty and integrity and those kinds of things are not lived and expressed like throughout, then you'll never get to the student experience, but it is the student experience that drives it.
No,
I mean, if you look at the evidence, right, past here, that's not been the case. We've done pretty much what we've just did now, and we're not at the top of on this top half of the list of districts. So maybe if we operated a little bit differently, it would create the difference between being on the bottom half and the top half.
Maybe let's tag this. Let's tag this and move through the process. And then when we come in to kind of finalize everything, let's make sure that we didn't listen. I think if we leave here having defined the fundamentals and we create an out for us where we can operate in a way that's inconsistent with what we've said is fundamentally true about where we're supposed to go, then I just think we missed. That's what I think. Like, we can't have the student stuff be so abstracted and in la la land that it's disconnected from the things we got to be accountable for in the way that we operate. Because honesty and integrity and those kinds of things, those need to be lived realities from a values point of view. They can't just be things on a sheet of paper, right, that the board came up with. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, let's make sure we close the loop today so we don't feel like whatever this is that we created is going to allow for what you just said to happen again. Because that shouldn't be the case if we get this right.
now, one thing that is missing that, I mean, it's not really missing, it's just maybe not fully fleshed out, and it's really simple. But when we talk about respectful and safe environment,
Yeah.
you know, when I look back at my Disney list, the first thing I think of, because I used to work there, so that was the difference too, is customer service.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we even spoke about it at one of our last board meetings, and Dr. Shanoff kind of agreed that when people walk into our schools, people need to feel greeted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to Parkway Middle School, sir, ma'am. How you doing? It's a great day. Everybody, but that should be consistent throughout. Anybody picks up the phone, hello, how you doing? It should be like a warm and welcoming environment, because we even spoke about it too, and Terry was talking about how like charter schools and private schools and vouchers are competing with us. So we almost need to make that as part of the strategic plan, as part of everyday thinking. Every single person that's in that district needs to be thinking about customer service, you know, de-escalation of issues when they happen, you know what I mean? And I just think that when you're talking about creating a respectful environment, customer service needs to be, now I don't know how you measure that from a metric perspective, but like I said, when I was in the military, we used to have like the prompt on every phone. And every phone we walk around and it said, hey, you were the second of 124, how you doing, sir, ma'am? It's like written on there just in case, so it's like dummy proof, you know, for anyone to figure it out.
I don't think we have to figure out the how yet, but I think what you're saying makes total sense. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that or have any questions for Julius on that? I just added that into the number 6. In quotations, everyone that enters the school district or the school feels welcome, greeted, just as a statement, right? There is a customer-centric mentality, customer service mentality visible in the school.
Right.
Yep. Okay, you want to take a bio break?
Yes, type 5, type 5.
Julius.
Yes.
Wait, 2 seconds, 1 second. I didn't realize it was to 2 o'clock. I have another appointment. Okay, so if there's anything that's before you, I don't
little different than the section that we just went through. So you're gonna go through, what we wanna do is make sure we consolidate. So we'll consolidate first. Did you delete them?
I got it back, sorry.
Okay, why is it different tab?
There we go. Yeah, why is it different tab? And I asked John for his perspective on why it matters so much to link operational integrity, transparency, all the things we were talking about a minute ago, to our commitment to the student. Why does that matter so much? So I think John's working on that, so we'll be adding that to this list. But you guys can go ahead and get to work, and let's just see which items feel like they belong together. Let's see if we can get this list to 10 down to 5 or 6.
Are we telling you?
You can call it out, and I'll merge.
Okay. 4 and 5 possibly, and maybe even 6.
Anybody object to merging 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Because we talk about society as a general, like what do we want the student to be outside of the district?
All right. I'm gonna delete 5 and 6 now, they're empty. What else could we merge?
I think maybe 5 and 6 together.
Anybody object to 5 and 6?
Yeah, 5 and 6 can be together. And almost 7 and 8, because you talk about time and money as a, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of you. Like time and money are both constraints. You know, there's a constraint on time and there's a constraint on money.
I think these come out of people's mouths at the same time, so they're all together.
Let's talk about 7 and 8, Julius. Let's talk about the point that those are making, because I remember you and I having these conversations. And the money constraint thing,
Yeah, they're separate.
I think they're a little different. 'Cause
Yeah, they're
the point you
different.
made on that one was
Yeah,
like, we have limited money to go, so we need to really understand objectively what value we're creating if we're spending money on stuff.
Correct, I gotcha. And then time is more of the student, not the
Yes.
money. We don't think of money when it comes to a student. And
Right.
we'll spend, I mean, if we know it's successful,
Yeah.
we'll spend whatever we can to make them successful,
You
if we
wanna
know it
keep-
works.
You wanna keep those
But-
separate?
But yeah, the time is, it's more of a sense of urgency. It creates time creates a sense of urgency. That they're in the first grade only once, they're in the second grade, we gotta hurry up and get them going. You know what I mean? And get them on the right path.
Would that potentially also then go under 5,
7?
7? Mr. Dr. Melendez just gave you an additional degree.
No, they got a couple masters, but.
Well, there you go, write him in for a PhD.
What do you think? What do you think, Julius? Does 5 and 7 go together?
No, I think transformational learning experiences is more about looking at the curriculum, looking at whatever. Time is more of like a sense of urgency is why. You know what I'm saying? So I think, you want to enrich the educational experience with 5, expose them to different curriculums, different mediums and things like that. 7 is like, the why, that we got to do it. It's not just, we don't have all day to teach them. You know what I mean? We only got so many hours between the bell to bell.
When I was reading that, I was trying to decipher if your outlook on it was from the the student, like, we're saying this as for the student, so like if something doesn't happen maybe in first grade, they're gonna miss the window for something in the future, or we don't want them to be a burden on society, productive, so can that stuff go into 4 where we talked about the different things for the student?
Oh, yeah, okay, I see that one more.
Cause that's why I was wondering if when you were talking to Mason about 7, was it from it's all about the student there,
4
right?
and 7 seem like they might go together. I think 5 and 7 were different, I think, what Julie was saying.
Yeah, because I think the difference between 3 and 4, just the way it is before we merge, 3 is more external. Like, once you leave the school district, we want a student that, can produce in society. 4 is more like what we do inside the walls of the K-12 or pre-K.
So Julius, was 4 and 7 feel like the same, like they go together? 4 and 7?
Or can it be like an extension?
They could merge together, yeah. They're not exactly the same, but they could be, they're similar type topics.
Okay, let's see if we can now, 'cause with these, I think we have a little work to do here, so let's just take these one at a time. When we read number 4 now, what is number 4 really getting at? What are we trying to drive at here? What's the real why? When you take all of that, we know there's a relationship there, but what's the real point?
I think it's
Productive citizens to create productive members of our community.
Who else has ideas? Productive. I'm gonna make the note. Productive citizens. What do you think, Heather?
No, that's what I was gonna say. I think the why is the students, and that at the end of the day, we want the students to be contributing members to society.
Yeah. Julius? Anything you would add to that?
It just, we got so many mergers and flip-flops, it's kind of hard to kind of get.
That's number 4. If we're in number 4 right now.
Yeah, because there's a lot of topics in there, because there's time, there's self-leadership.
Well, the thing about time, the point that I understood you were making about time is you don't want to waste the time we have with the students. It's not really about
Yeah.
time, it's just that we only have so much
Yeah.
with them, and if we screw up first and second grade,
Right.
now they're off to a bad start.
Right, but one of the things that I felt that kind of needs a lot of attention to where it's kind of a new strategic vision is the self-leadership aspect of it.
Yep.
Because, we can sit there and say, okay, the district didn't do this to a student. And also, we can look at that from a different vantage point and go, what did the student do to help themselves? I mean, that's a whole different ball of wax. Did the student ask for help? I mean, we can always, tell the student, do this, and do that, and force feed them everything. It's like a parent that makes every phone call for a student, that does everything, that does their homework. Because I was guilty when my son was like 2 years old. I did a lot of his homework, we helped him out. But now it's like I can't even tell you what he's doing in homework because he's doing it on his own. I'm like, you know what, get your own grade. And now he's flying, doing great academically because he's taking more ownership
Yes.
and responsibility of the decisions that he makes.
So
And I
if
think
you-
that needs to be a key cornerstone, whether that's a side note or a big note. I want students to be able to be self-sufficient and learn to do those calls, learn to do the homework on their own, develop those.
So let's pin that, and now let's go back to the what that we just worked on. Because the number one thing that was in there was about facilitating transformational learning experiences, early exposures to pass, being able to fail fast. Self-leadership becomes a fundamental principle of that. Meaning you're not gonna do the things that we said we want to on the first page that we worked on if self-leadership. Being a productive citizen is one thing, self-leadership is something else. Right? So that's kind of for the table. It's in there, it was just kind of smuggled in and buried down in there, and Julius is just amplifying the self-leadership piece as a very important, like a cornerstone to bringing this thing to life.
For number 4, the opening statement, get students across the finish line. That's the opposite of what we should be doing, I think. Because that's a very, as pragmatic as it may be, it's not really our mission to get students across a line. That's an objective for us, for our purposes, but it's not really, it's not really what the commitment that we're making to the community, right? We're educating.
What would you amplify? What would you, so I see what you're saying, but what part in there matters most to you? Is this self-leadership thing that
I think
Julia's-
educational outcomes which is the third, in terms of their retention to their capacity, right? I mean, if we had a student learning at 100% of their capacity, but they didn't graduate, I think that we would have fulfilled our obligation. If our job is to just graduate people so that we can be on a list and get tax money from the state, then that's, nobody's heart is gonna be warmed over that.
Alright, so I've updated the,
Now, ESC, I know this is the right question, but I'm like, when they get a separate diploma, is that considered graduation rate too as part of the cohort, or?
They're not considered part of the cohort if it's a special diploma. So special diploma is considered separately.
John.
But that doesn't
Does
hurt
that
the
look like that's
graduation
starting
rate,
to
right?
capture-
So
we
technically,
get
you
into
can have
most
100%
important things at the
graduation
top
rate, but
now.
we're talking about graduation rate for traditional diplomas.
Well, do
Yeah,
you
and
want
the
this?
thing with graduation rate, there's no additional dollars that come with a graduation rate being higher than another. The difference would be.
What I mean is that the state would come and take your district over, right? At a certain degree when you're failing, so
Because that's the point of us,
So
that you could graduate.
is that the point?
That is part of the reason we exist.
No, our point is to educate kids so that their diploma has a significance. If their diploma has no significance, then we're not achieving our job no matter how many kids get a diploma.
So in order to get a diploma, you have to graduate. So.
Right,
Yeah.
you don't have to learn, right?
So I think the
That's
sentiment there though.
that's what I'm trying to sort out. They should be learning so that they deserve a diploma, not getting a diploma so that they can graduate.
I don't think any of us are saying we don't want them to learn, and even in that line there, get students across the finish line, whether that was something that was said to mean, oh, we just need to check a
But that's
box.
the point of the conversation,
But
right?
it says successful contributors to society, it says want them equipped to succeed in life. That learning is what's equipping them to succeed in life. So I think the whole statement there was the juxta of that with that verbiage being used and construed in a different
But
way.
I mean, that's the point, right? Because we're creating language that is gonna identify the district, so we should hash it out, right?
Or we
So,
just
I mean-
put that in there, a diploma should mean something, the diploma should have value, so when they acquire a diploma has value.
What's the value? Like what do we want that to mean?
That's a great question. That's a great that's
That's
a
the
great
$1 million
question. That's the $1 million question.
Well, we
right
do
there.
have what state statute, I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah, I know,
haven't vetted my
so
own
am I.
thought
Like,
process.
what-
Don't burn
that's-
me,
I
don't
thought
burn
it
me
was
on my
a-
opinion, you know what I'm saying, I'm just
I'm
saying.
not.
But according to statute, they look at that, they give us end of course exams, so they want you to be functioning literate in math, for instance. So if you can't pass the Algebra 1 end of course exam, they don't consider you good enough, They have ELA standards.
Right.
So we have basic, I'm just trying to make it to something that's measurable.
I mean,
and that's
this may be a
basically-
great time for, like Dr. Allen, what would make you feel fulfilled when a student left your class? Like truly fulfilled as an educator?
When I was teaching with my class.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he or she mastered all of the standards that I was set out to portray upon them.
And what does mastering mean to you?
Well, being able to show proficiency, whatever the standards call for, then that specifically is what my job is to teach those standards.
So then I think that would be, that to me, that is a great definition of what the requirement is when our kids leave, right? And I don't think that anybody in the state is necessarily meeting that requirement. That's where we should be back to. So when we talk about mastery, it shouldn't be, a mastery in the sense that we can pull you across the finish line. And I'm just using the language because it was there. It should be that the student has mastered the criteria that we're supposed to be
Well,
providing.
or maybe demonstrated
Right, or demonstrated,
criteria,
right?
because maybe it shouldn't necessarily always be, can they choose the right multiple choice answer, but can they actually,
Absolutely.
Well,
do
I got one for you,
Right.
because we do the end of course exams now,
Create.
and there are standards. The Sunshine State standards tell us even the curriculum when we create the cups. You know what I mean? We're not creating cups in a vacuum, hopefully. We're looking at what the state says. This course requires you to know this, and this, right? I think it'd be interesting is like at Neo City, they do like a final portfolio or what they learned or something like that. What if we did something like that? When you graduate, we create our own internal standard that shows a portfolio of, hey, what did you learn? What is your next step? You know, or something like that, where they put together a little presentation that includes like maybe the resume. Hey, this is my resume. They write a question, what am I gonna do next? I'm gonna go to the military, they write like an essay, they put together like a final capstone project that shows not only what they've learned, but what is their plan for the future? Kind of like as an exit, you know.
Secondarily, to build on that, so primarily it would be the mastery of what we're supposed to be teaching them according to state statute. Secondarily, at the very least, when you get a diploma, the student and that student's family should understand what that child or that student has learned in their school. Not figuratively, but literally, like a student should walk out knowing what their strengths are, right? If we're gonna create productive citizens, then they should know who they are. As an 18, I'm 18 years old, but I'm really good at math, right? Like you should know that. Today, they get out of school, and it not has nothing to do with us, right? They're more concerned with what day they can go to the beach when they graduate, but the point is that they understand who they are in terms of their capacities.
What you're saying right there is back to what y'all identified again for the what, right? Like if we're gonna be enabling students to discover and pursue their chosen path and give them early exposure to different things, like to me the whole point of that would be, I would interpret that as discovering strengths and things like what you're pointing at right now. So 100%. There are implications to what you've identified here where it wouldn't be enough to just verify mastery over like English or math, the way that you guys wrote the beginning part, right? Because you're painting a more holistic picture of what readiness looks like. It's not just academic. Not that the academics are not extremely important. All right, let's go back to 4 then. What I'm trying to do is kind of get the more important stuff closer to the top. Does that feel like we're doing that now? Is there anything we want to add, edit, remove?
I agree with that. What I'm not really clear is what 3 is. I know we're on 4. Okay, 3 seems kind of light.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, like let's talk about it. What does it belong somewhere? Should we fold it into something else that's here? What's the point of 3?
I'm thinking 3 is external to the district. That our output is that maybe we can even talk about internships, you know, job placements, you know, military placements. You know, what I mean, like kind of like and that's kind of a hard metric to look at because I don't know how you know long we keep information on them. So to me, that I don't know if that's really going to be a thing. But we're talking about why, not what. You know, so it's not really measurable.
Yeah, I would say number 3, Heather. This was something that you and I talked about, and I felt like what you were saying here was, in the end, for us to get this right, it means the students have to be bought into. This isn't just something that administrators and teachers are doing. Like if this is a living thing in the district inside the school that the kids are in.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I can
That
even.
speaks, oh, no, go ahead.
You first.
This speaks, I think, or I think it speaks to the larger community, right? Like sort of like everyone, all community members are in on ensuring that we have the best education
optics from a community point of view for investments in alignment there, right? And that creates opportunities through interns and all of that. And then the other dimension to this has to do with like literally the students bought into it. Like when we come out and say, hey, this is how we're showing up for you, this is holistic, we're gonna empower you. I mean, we're talking about kids, right? Like that's not an easy thing to do to get them to trust that this is legitimate and that you're really doing this for them and they get really bought into that. That's a separate, to me, those are two different things. So Heather, I couldn't remember which one mattered more to you in our
I don't
conversation.
remember.
For some reason, when I think about both 3, 4, and even actually all of these, like it reminds me, or I think about like schools like, stay with me for a second. We're gonna go away and we're gonna, I feel like, I think of like Harvard, right? Like Cambridge, like those big schools that have an identity that's outside of the area, and it's because you have all of this buy-in from, like they have this brand of excellence. So I feel like where we're going is like how, and again, perhaps to even expand on board member Arguello's point is like, I feel like what we're all seeing is we want this brand of excellence that like extends outside of Osceola.
That's how you drive buy-in, is by making this bigger than just what's happening.
Yeah, like those kids that go to Harvard, they better get good grades because they go to Harvard.
And one of the good things that Harvard does too, it's a self-feedback loop. They attract people to come. Like in their school of government class, the Secretary of State will be there and tell them, hey, this is our foreign policy, dilemma or whatever the issue is. So now it makes the program much more relevant, and then students have their why. Hey, why am I going to school? Because I want to get a job and be the next Secretary of State or something like that. So exposing these students to the community, because at the end of the day, that's true. Why am I getting a degree? Why am I getting a diploma for? Okay, I'm getting a diploma. Okay, I did the state thing, but they need to get a degree to get to where they need to go in life. And I think it is true that the community's involved, teaching them, hey, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be a whatever. Again, I think internships to a certain degree have to be kind of into that.
So let's work on that. I just tweaked it a little bit. I don't know if that's right. I just did that because I wanted to sharpen up the point that we were really making here, which is there is a brand that you're going to try to build, and you want that brand to be reflected in and through the community, right? Okay, Terry, what would you add? Julius, what would you add? If you look at what's worded there right now, John, is there anything missing based on this conversation that we're having to really capture that point?
I really like the point that Teresa was making in terms of having something that's of high enough quality that it has a reputation outside of its local community. The basis of which, what leads you to that point, I think is something that I could definitely be on that same page.
So we're building something that generates high enough quality so that it's visible to the external community?
I think that it's just like the conversation that you were having with Mark about people who are in the military, right? People recognize military or that experience in people often. And it would be great if people said, wow, you must have gone to Osceola County School.
Ooh, great point.
Right,
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
That's-
fire.
Yep, that's on point. And then too, a lot of that too, when I think about it, Dr. Cheryl, this is kind of to you, I know this is a strategic plan, but even the way kids compose their emails, a bunch of like, discombobulated grammar and things like that, you're like, oh, you don't want to get a reputation for that too, but people who know how to articulate themselves and how to communicate effectively is beyond just a state standard. We should almost do like, hey, if they ever have a complaint, force them to do like an email to the teacher or something like that and say, oh, and grammar check their email. And I know it's not a grade, but those are part of the standards.
They
because,
contact me, don't worry.
But, I'm just thinking out loud, but that's how that standard goes, because also when they write an email to somebody in the external world and they're just like, all over the map in the way they talk or the way they communicate, writtenly, then it's like, oh, that's an Osceola kid, or oh, they must have gone to Seminole County. I'm pretty sure they have those kind of conversations outside. But we want to be proud that they graduated from Osceola because they have certain components to
Like
them.
markers of excellence.
Yes.
Mhm.
They know how to compose a good email. They know how to
Yes.
make a good argument.
That's a great way, like when you have that diploma at the end of your career, you have those markers of excellence, right? Like that's what you've achieved. It's not just, checking boxes.
Yeah, even though, and here's the last thing on that. Remember that with the cell phone policy, and I was a sucker, and I'm glad I didn't vote for it. But it was so nice for them to come in. They came in professionally dressed. They gave their little presentation, even though we didn't vote for them, but they learned a lot. When they came to that board meeting and gave that 3-minute speech on why they were against the cell phone policy.
And later, the conversation with them really kind of bore out the notion that they actually saw the benefit. That when enough time had passed, they actually saw the benefit, and it really wasn't that hard at the end of the day to give that up and then be able to see that pretty much everybody was on the same playing field. So nobody was getting an additional benefit over somebody else. And when you go to our campuses and you see kids interacting with each other on class changes and lunches being loud, it's kind of enjoyable.
Right.
Because
And,
there's an element of communication that we have lost where students can essentially filter everything, all of their communication through the lens of whatever they type. So what was lost is the ability to respond in the moment and the ability to have a conversation. And that in and of itself should be a marker, right? I mean, the ability to communicate effectively is not necessarily a box you need to check in order to receive a diploma from the school board or the state. Yet it is a required life skill, is it not?
do we have speech class or as a requirement in high school? I know at college level.
Debate.
There is no requirement for that. It's an elective.
Is that something that we talk about strategic plan, and we could just call it not just speech, but effective communication skills?
So
Teach them a basic,
I don't think that we want to get in the business of establishing what's required in the state's course directory. That's really a state function. However, I think that there is an opportunity for us to establish communication, spoken communication, written communication. We can highlight those standards that are already embedded in required coursework and basically turn them into power standards or SDOC standards of excellence, or brand it some other way where we can actually say this is a gateway to, no pun intended, this is a gateway towards your graduation by showing, demonstrating proficiency in this particular power standard, whatever it
Yeah,
happens.
because I think ELA is different than actually just like effective communication.
Well, and then our teachers can live it, right?
Yeah.
With their students,
For
because
sure.
right now, in my very short amount of time teaching, I mean, the communication between teachers and students is not great, and it's not the teachers, but it's such a pain if you want to get these kids to the end of the year, right? You have to forego and surrender some of that, holding that high standard of communication.
In the spirit of trying to meet the cadence of what needs to be accomplished,
Right.
because there are so many standards that seem to be aligned to a particular course. However, I think you see pockets of it. At least I have seen pockets of it when I walk classrooms. I have seen teachers actually demonstrate standards at very high levels, be able to provide those examples. And yes, you do see it permeate throughout the classroom, especially when they release content out to students to go ahead and interact with each other. You can see high levels of communication by those that establish it and practice it themselves. There's no reason why we can't establish training, establish additional professional development around the idea of particular standards being standards of excellence for which every school district of Osceola County student must have prior to their graduation. None. So I actually think that this would be a labor of love for our curriculum folks and our teachers who really exemplify these things and value this. So I think that we could actually do this rather seamlessly, and really work collaboratively with teachers across the district on how to stand that up across different content areas, not just ELA, but U.S. history. You know, so especially when we look at when we look at primary source documents, seeing how those are written, and seeing that in many cases there are lots of changes in language that have occurred and evolved over time. But it's important for them to be able to speak all of those various iterations of what English has looked like since the inception of our country, and how formality has changed over time relative to those documents.
I think that it would have been good to have a union rep here. Not that they would have a voting position, but in order to make this strategic plan take root, then they should probably, because that's the teachers got to be on board, right? Because specifically this level, creating these markers of excellence, right? They're the sergeants when it comes to that, right? And they need to make that happen for their students. And I think that would be a valid opinion at the table.
So, having met with the teachers union president earlier today, I know she's watching. So
We'll get their feedback.
Yeah, we have a very collaborative relationship. So that's certainly something that we will engage together in.
Yeah, that's something I would like though, that Mr. Aguirre did mention that in the process. Like, let's say we're just coming up with our concepts and like, it's like it's almost like I feel like it's a funnel. And like we're kind of go here to here.
Yes.
I think that at some point though, just as good practice, it is good to get input. Because here I have all the input of all the senior leaders. Every single one of them can sit there and tell us in our ear in between breaks. But you're right. I don't think it'd be a bad idea to have a Teamsters or union person kind of give us their input as well.
So here's the thing. This board is going to go through several iterations of drafts until we get to a final product. There is going to be an element of this process where board members will need to go out and elicit input from members of their community. We can do these things via thought exchange. We can do these where it's completely anonymous. We can do face-to-face. We can do a combination of both. We can have a standing link up on our website that will allow people to provide feedback whenever they have the opportunity.
Right.
This is not a one and done. This is not, we're going to establish something today and then it's set in stone. That's not it. This is the beginning of our process. This process will include the voices of all types of stakeholder groups. So they will have the opportunity to do this. The concern is that this is the responsibility of the board to establish.
To draft, yeah.
Okay? It is not the responsibility of senior leadership. It is not the responsibility All right, can you give me any feedback?
Yeah.
Alright, no, problem.
You
Take
need
your
a,
time.
you need to be.
Yeah, yeah, I don't have it.
Okay.
Give me feedback.
read that for us as a why? Line number 6. And then let's just build on that, or if anybody wants to ask any clarifying questions. But I just asked John. John made the comment as we were transitioning from the what, that in the past we have been student focused, but then when it comes to the operational component, that we didn't follow through in that way, like we should have. And I wanted him to kind of capture what the why is.
The community trusts the school district to educate their students, not only in accordance with our constitutional duty, but also as stewards of their well-being, emotionally, physically, and intellectually. We should not do what we cannot do with decency.
So that's the why. Anybody have anything they want to add to that? So when we think about how critical it is to link what we do operationally to the student experience and the student, right, that whole thing, that's been a theme since this started.
Well, I think an overarching why too is that how to get community buy-in is when they trust us. So, because the reality too is, sometimes we may have to raise taxes, or we may have to do something that impacts the community. And if they trust that we're doing everything in an open manner, that we're efficient stewards of the dollars they have, then they can work with us in the future when we ask for things. When we ask the parents to get redistricted all the time. They move from school to school, and if parents don't trust us, then it's going to make those processes that much more difficult to implement. But when there is trust in the relationship established with the community and the district, when we make difficult decisions like redistricting or things like that, then it just allows us to do that with much more trust.
John, I just added, we should not do what we cannot do with decency and transparency. Right?
Where can you put that?
This is line number 6.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to add anything to build on that? Julius, I just added transparency to kind of capture the point that you're making, because if we're not, trust from the community is kind of dependent on observed decency and then transparency into the things that you're doing and how money's being used, things that we've already talked a lot about today.
And later on, we can measure that in metrics too.
100%.
We can see like the number of lawsuits. A lot of times people sue us because of lack of trust too. Less bid protests and things like that. So there are measurable outcomes later on. I know it's early to discuss, but that is measurable.
It's more measurable by the people who don't sue us, because they don't have necessarily a claim to sue the district for not being good stewards, right? The bottom line is that we're expected to do a job with fidelity. And what is that fidelity to, right? We all know that we have a job, then we have a fidelity, there's an obligation of fidelity, but what is it? To what? And I think that's, nobody would expect us to come here and make decisions that would be offensive to the community, whether it be abuse of funds, abuse of their kids, taking risks that the community would never want. So for me, that's what that is. There's certainly a community will. By the way, Dr. Allen just went out to get Chick-fil-A for himself. Thank you.
Look at this.
Oh, look at this gentleman get it. Oh, do we not get a meal for him?
No, we got it for.
No, it was
Okay.
not his, it was Sarah's.
So thank you for that addition, John. Is there anything else on here that we can collapse? If there's not anything else to collapse or merge, then we can go ahead and move into voting. And on this one, what we're gonna do,
I think I don't know if I have the latest refresh, but one of them was kind of broken down in half over here. On the right side, there was like on number 4.
yeah, what I tried to do is I tried to pull the less meaty stuff that,
Oh, I see what you're saying, but
where
we're
we
still
didn't
talking
really
about it.
lose anything
Gotcha.
with the core content, but I didn't want to delete it because I was kind of
Gotcha.
doing that on the
Just
side.
put off to the side. So same thing as before, 3 up, 1 down?
3 up, 1 down. And what is our tagline here for number 4? Self-leadership. Is self-leadership doesn't seem to capture all of it, because that's what I had there, but there is like a headline here. What's the headline for number 4?
Fostering student self-responsibility or
Fostering student success. Excellence,
Achievement?
achievement.
or being proactive is what I'm trying to get them to be there.
Okay, what if we said, okay, let me try this. Proactive student achievement? Let's just leave it as a placeholder.
Yeah, then we can come up with better.
Yeah.
Student leadership success, or something like that. Kind of like student success, but not just student success, but student leadership.
Can we unclick the fields so that, because it's obscuring the.
You have to vote.
3 up, 1 down. Remember that the down vote is not to say that it's not important, it's just the least important of all of the important items that we picked. From your perspective.
Are we supposed to? So we're not voting on one thing at all?
You
The
can,
last one is
So-
objectives, right? That's how I saw it. Cause yes, I was like, wait, there's one thing that's like,
you could, okay, so we didn't talk all the way through the list. Number 7 was, part of the why is that we needed to, and this was from our conversation, wasn't it, Julius? So I understood what you were getting at here to be, in the end, this new plan that we're coming up with has got to get us to the point where things are objective and measurable. So whatever we come up with here at the end with the piece of paper or the couple of pieces of paper, it's got to have that as a principle. And I think that loops back into everything you guys have been talking about when it comes to the community and transparency and.
Or to what Mr. Arguello's point was, how do you regress back to what we did before?
Right.
So if we want to make the strategic plan actionable, you know what I mean? So and hold it accountable and say, okay, this is what we want to do, then we got to start voting and taking steps in place to actually implement it.
Did you guys say then that you could merge 3 and 7?
yeah.
Does anybody object to merging 3 and 7 to just say as this brand of excellence within the community is built on objective, measurable outcomes? That's kind of a dimension of it.
So I kind of think 6 can also just be merged into that same thing.
Julius, are you okay with that if I move 7
Yeah.
to 3?
Yes.
And then Heather, you're saying also that maybe 6 can go in there too?
So I did that as my down vote because I think when you look at the first one, all of that kind of feels in with there. Because if you've got your community buying into what you're doing or saying at the end of the day, you must have gone to Osceola,
Yep.
the trust is there then because
Yes.
they trust that we did that job and those students are a product of that job.
I would think that what's there already is a byproduct of the other. Without it, you wouldn't get it.
Yes. So what we can do is up level, here, so let's just try that. Let's move it. I'm gonna move it up here, but then let's kind of take another look at the box and make sure that we have the most important things at the top.
And I think objectives that align to the mission and vision should be up on top since we're putting it together.
Yeah.
And then you want it to extend through the community.
Yeah, and I almost think you could, instead of just saying the district has a brand of excellence, you would say, one of the words you've used a couple of times, John, is integrity. So the district has a brand within the community that's more than just excellence, right? There's an integrity piece or, yeah. And then Julius, were you saying that you feel like we should move objectives that align to this vision and mission in a measurable way over the fact that the brand of the district has integrity and excellence?
I would combine those two sentences.
Okay. Okay, so let me try some. I'm gonna use another word you guys used a lot. I mean, I think almost every one of you said accountability at some point. And so we would say something about the district's brand of integrity and excellence extends through the community, held accountable through objective measure, something like that.
I kind of see them as two different things though. You know, because the brand of integrity and its excellence is kind of like the result. You know, the result of doing the right things, that's what occurs. So I don't really see it as a.
Let's talk about that. Does anybody else, do y'all feel that integrity and excellence is something that happens after the fact, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's why that's what I mentioned earlier, that's why the community would buy in. If you don't do that, what do they have to buy into?
Right.
I mean, that's.
Terry, what do you think?
I'm fine with changing it to include whatever, but I'm pretty set on having brand of excellence somewhere in that sentence.
Yeah, and I just think that they're two separate concepts, and I think they're both very important, and I think they kind of go together, but I just think that objectives that align with the vision and mission statement in a measurable way is something a little bit different than developing a brand identity. I just think that they're not that closely related to combine it into one sentence.
Well, if your brand is supposed to be integrity and excellence, you behave that way, but then you perform that way. So the things that you should be measuring objectively should be in alignment with that on principle.
Okay.
Like,
I just did the word "and" in between those two thoughts. If you can, who's the dinosaur?
oh yeah, let me do it. I'm on it right now.
So,
Yeah. What are you thinking, John?
a district brand of excellence extending through the community based on achieving and sustaining objectives that align to the vision and mission in a measurable way.
Okay, say the last part of it again. Say where you add it, how did you merge it? So I've got district's brand of integrity and excellence extending through the community.
Or I would just say excellence, and then based on objectives that align to the vision and mission in a measurable way.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I'm not gonna, like you said, I'm not gonna wordsmith.
Do you want to drop in, is excellence enough? Does excellence capture integrity, or do you want integrity to be in there with that?
I mean, I think that those are two completely different things, right? Excellence does not necessarily mean
Exactly.
integrity.
Right.
So I would say that losing either one of those would lose the meaning,
Perfect.
and I'd say those two things are the
Critical.
basis.
Okay, great. So does anybody have any, by the way, this isn't even like this still even has to be wordsmith. We're just trying to get directional framing.
Gotcha.
So if everybody's good. What y'all are implying right now is that it's not enough to just say you're gonna try to act with integrity. They said we're gonna measure that at some point in this process. We're gonna have to make decisions about how are we gonna demonstrate that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
good
if
and
you
we're
can't
gonna prove it.
demonstrate it, it's not enough to say that we're just gonna do it. We're gonna try to do it, which is part of what you were saying in the past hasn't worked, where we're maybe trying our best to do things at a certain level, but then they just don't connect.
Yeah, and then we hold people accountable. And that doesn't always mean like a consequence at first. To me, I want to be able to maximize professional development. We just shouldn't have professional development based on what we think is right. We look at what we want to do and use professional development to close those gaps so people don't have the skill sets to do that. So everyone gets like a free pass on the first one. It's almost like the first mistake is on us. You know what I mean? Like say we set out an objective, a teacher didn't meet that objective. I don't want to punish that teacher the first time. You know what? It's my fault as a leader.
Right.
Maybe as a principal or whatever, I didn't teach them what they needed to do well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, after I change that strategy, maybe go to professional development and model that, then if it continues to behave, eventually there'll be that accountability model, but like a scaled accountability.
Yeah,
You know what I'm trying to say? The first one isn't a knock. The
Right.
first one's a knock on me as a leader for not showing you the proper
Yeah.
way to get it done.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like you kind of have to decide what accountability even means to you, right? Because companies will use it as a way to shoot you in the head.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what you guys are saying. Like the spirit of what you're talking about here, if you're trying to create environments where students are empowered and there's self-leadership and you have top talent, like A players are not going to have you micromanaging and looking for, like that's the opposite of what you guys are even talking about. So when you say accountability, as we go through iterations on this, there's probably going to need to be some work about what you even mean about that here.
I think we mean ownership
Ownership.
versus accountability.
Love that.
I mean,
We
I
own
There's still-
results.
there's
I
still
think
an aspect of
accountability,
accountability, too.
yeah.
There's a little bit of
We-
both.
Yeah,
A little
I
bit of
think
both.
accountability would involve ownership, right? That's the tactic that a leader, an A-talent person would use to demonstrate accountability.
I understand, and we probably mean both, but when I think of I'm holding my folks accountable, I'm basically saying you've done this and now you have to do the, like, live whatever the consequences are versus you own these results as well as I do.
Yes.
That's where, like, for me, it's a little bit of a different thing, and I think that we might, I mean, I think that we should include both. I don't know if that's where the conversation is going, but I do think an aspect of owning the results, owning even the students, even the community, we
Yes.
own the results of what happens here in Osceola County is really important to create that sense of community and brand identity.
I think that that's the difference, right? Because it's, in the private world, you can own it, that's fine, you deal with the knocks, but in the public sector, you're accountable to the public, period.
Yeah.
And that's by statute, not just by custom. So, I mean, it's the difference. What makes, and this is one of the reasons why A-talent doesn't like to be in government, right? Because it's slightly different. We have a duty.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about a point, because both of you are making really important points. So I want to say back, Terry, what I think you're saying. You can't force someone to take ownership.
Right.
Ownership has to be built into the culture. I can hold you accountable, but if you didn't take ownership, the loop is broken.
Yeah.
And so you got to have both, and that's why you're pointing that out, right? Like you've got to have this piece in here where in the end we know what we're responsible for and we own that.
Sure.
And then you're going to hold me accountable like as a part of that process, but I have to take ownership first. And then accountability is really just the process for how you find out whether somebody really did or not. And then if you didn't take ownership, the system will show that, and then you're going to either be coached up or you're going to go be successful
Correct,
somewhere
and that's what I'm
else.
saying, that's where the accountability part has to be in there, because ownership is, we encourage that, but accountability is double, it's like trust but verifying. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like Terry, and you jump in here.
Yeah, I yes, adjacent to what I'm thinking, but if I'm correct, maybe I'm not. We're talking about this in the sense of brand identity, correct?
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
where we are? It's important that I know where this conversation, the genesis of the conversation. Is that correct?
I think in the we're in the notion of forget about brand identity and more of our relationship with the community fundamentally.
fine.
But
And
in a
then
way,
how
that's
we
what doing. I can see that though.
So
Okay, that's how
let
you
me-
develop your brand identity. If we get rid of the people who aren't performing and hold them accountable, we want high standards, high excellence. People start developing a brand of high excellence. No, they do go together.
yes.
That's how you develop a standard of excellence. You have another when I see a German car, I go, oh, those are the great German engineers. I know the engineer that made it. But that's like a saying that's built into my brain.
Right.
It's a German car. They must be good German engineers. If that comes from another country, oh, then they're inferior because they're the senior ones. I'm just, but that's where that, it may
Yes.
be just a pure marketing ploy. But the point is, I don't want to be a pure marketing ploy. I want that to be reality.
Real, yes.
You know what I mean? I really want to have the best teachers, the best stuff, and hold them to high standards and have them execute on those standards. That's how you build a dang identity. You don't have to fake it. Don't fake it. Let's really be great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the purpose. Or it should be the purpose. I'm sorry, that was my intro point.
Go ahead and finish your thought, Terry.
I can find where it was now. I think that it goes along with all the conversations we're having specifically with Chair. So you brought up the point of we want the community to be involved. What can we do for them? If we are all in community with the results that happen in the school district, then accountability comes secondhand. Every person, and we've had this conversation around this table several times, when we talk about students not performing to the level that they should, and we always ask, where are the parents? How can we help the parents, right? What are we building those pipelines in order to ensure that these children get out of here and are able to be productive? Who's owning that part of the conversation? So it's like, yes, we're accountable, but we also own this entire process. So it just becomes, it's not a building, it's everyone collectively in this community owns what happens in this district, is what I
My fear of that, just to be honest, it's almost like
Sure.
a therapy session, is that
Yeah.
then you don't get
Everything with you.
Yeah, exactly. My fear of that is then you don't get the buck. Where does the buck stop? Like, safety is everybody's responsibility. Yeah, I get that to a certain degree, but then somebody has to own that specific function, and somebody has to be held accountable for that function.
Someone has to be held accountable for it,
Yes.
but everyone owns it. Do you understand what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So-
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to tell you, that there's a
Yeah.
separation. That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to argue with you. There needs to be a separation
There's no
between ownership
argument.
and
We're not
accountability.
arguing.
And I
feel
don't want to
you.
diminish the value of accountability.
Yeah.
I don't want to put ownership so high and not accountability. Ownership and accountability should go hand in
Sure.
hand, because people need to be held accountable for following through on what they're supposed to do.
Yes. What were you gonna say,
I
John?
understand.
Yeah, so one, I think we need to keep in mind who we are and what our duty is as a district, because it's kind of insulting to infer that we're responsible for the ownership of parents for their own students. The community those are their kids, right? They put them in our schools. So in terms of, we can't expect accountability from parents. We can't expect ownership from the parents. That's way beyond our scope. In the end, they're the boss. What the relationship with their student is different. It's insulting to say, oh well, we'll require the parents to have ownership as if they don't. It's kind of self-thinking. I do think that ownership and accountability are two separate things, right? Ownership is something that is built in culture. Accountability is something that is done in practice, right? If you get a talent, they own their stuff. You don't have to tell them. But none of this stuff should be left up to inference. We should be explicit. Take ownership and be accountable. I mean, I think that that's fair, because if they're two different functions, the way that you describe them, they're both equally necessary, right? One, to establish that you have good accountability at the end. But I think accountability, we can expect parents to be accountable for their portion, right? Like we would expect that, right? But we can't really apply ownership to the parent.
Okay, so we agree that they're both equally important.
Yes.
There.
They're both equally important. By the way, this is not an I mean, I can't tell you how many times at UDT this topic has come up recently, right? The relationship between ownership. By the way, it's not just a UDT thing, like it was the same thing at Subway. Like, this is a topic. It's built into what you guys are trying to do, because if you're talking about self-leadership, what is that built on? Fundamentally, self-leadership is predicated on your understanding of the outcomes that you are trying to drive and the work you are willing to do that, period. So there is no self-leadership without ownership. It won't work. And so if you put students in a school where you say on paper that self-leadership is great, but then the system that you guys build for accountability doesn't reinforce ownership at the administration and teacher level, now it's broken and students don't see it, and then this, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it is important, and what the debate that you guys were just having wasn't, like, that's important to talk through this.
Yeah.
Right? Like how you land the space. I have ownership in the session today, but my ownership is not what you guys come up with. That's not my job. Think about how this would have felt to you if I'd have rolled up in here, taken ownership of what was right and what I thought should be a top priority. It would violate your agency as leaders over this process. And so it would have been like parents. So if you're not really thoughtful about the expression of these things in a complex environment like this, because it is public, to your point, like those nuances matter. It's not just a word game that we're having this debate on. Yeah. So you got the list down to 3. So we got a 2-way tie between top talent and brand excellence. So you're gonna get 2 votes between the top 2. I'm sorry, 1 vote between the top 2.
So we vote for the one most important. We're doing one up.
Number 3
No
or
doubt.
number 4. I'm wondering, as you're doing these votes, I'm wondering if number 4 is more of a what? Because I totally get the why on number 3, and I totally get the why on number 5. This is, number 4 is almost like it's a part of the thing you're trying to make. It's not driving it. It's just something that has to be true for you to do the other stuff. Is that right, or do you have a different perspective? I guess the question that I'm asking is number 4 a why?
I think this was part of my conversation with you. I can see it both ways, but I think because we struggle with talent in the industry, not just in Osceola, it is important for us to create, I guess it is a what, why, so that we can have talent.
Is this fundamental? If you let's just go back and look at the what tab for a minute. Yeah, I mean you can't do this stuff.
Yeah, it can almost be like a separate category of that what, like a number 7, for instance, of a what, instead of a why by itself.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Right. We'll just tag that for now. I think we should just leave it where it is. Maybe is it maybe just the way that we're coming at it? The why here is that we have to have the right environment to attract the best talent.
Yeah, or we have to have top talent in order to achieve our objectives.
Create the environment.
Yeah. Okay. So based on that, will we want to move 5 above 4? And then we can kind of leave the top talent kind of here, but underneath the 3, I did this.
Yep.
Do those feel like, are those the top 2 whys?
Yes.
Students first.
followed by the BRAC.
Alright, let's move on to the perfect 10. Now we are 5 minutes away from Julius.
I trust my team, we can do this.
Or we do 10 minutes, I can stay for 5 minutes after, it doesn't have to be
Okay, so let's go through and clean the list up, see if we can get some of these consolidated. Remember the perfect 10, John, so we didn't do the interview, so the thing about the perfect 10 is that imagine that you were on vacation for a month, okay? And while you were on vacation, these things that we identified were implemented and they worked exactly the way we wanted them to work, but nobody told you. And you came back into either a school to do a walkthrough or you're in here at the board meeting and you see something and it tells you that happened, right? That's the perfect 10 is the actual experience. It's not like a checklist, but it's the felt experience of getting this right. So if there's something missing as you're looking through here from your point of view, let me know and we'll make sure we add that in here.
I think we can take number 12 and roll it up into number 3.
12 and 3.
And 6 and 9 can be combined. It's talking about the community. So they're both community, so 6 and 9 can put together.
Yeah, 4, 2, right?
6 and 9, anybody object?
I would say 3 and 4, maybe even 5. I don't know about 5 though. Someone can convince me on that one though.
Let's do 3 and 4 for anybody object to merging 3 and 4?
Isn't 5 like below 30,000 feet?
Yeah, because learner engagement requires teachers. Yeah, so teachers and learner engagement go hand in hand, correct? I can see 3 and 4 together.
What about 5?
For 3 and 4, which one belongs on the top?
Learner engagement, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, we'll go with that. Now, what are we doing with 5?
I mean, are we assuming that that's not the case?
No, we're pretending as if, well, I don't know.
In a
the
real
perfect
perfect
environment.
10,
This is, we were doing a visioning session here.
yeah, but what I mean is like, if you didn't see that, you wouldn't be necessarily under the impression that it wasn't ever happening, right? Like it's really about the student, right? What the student is partaking, not what they're getting out of it or what their engagement is, not the relationship between the teacher and well, maybe it would be.
Well, yeah, because you see the administrators
And the
getting in
administrator
there. They
building
gotta
those
be in there, know what's going on, teaching
It's almost
teachers.
like the statement that really has meat to it is that the administrators know the students by name. Just as a directional statement, what I think that was implying is that the administrators are very engaged in the school and the student body. So maybe we need to rephrase.
They're not just,
Tagline.
students aren't just a number.
So I think that's why you can roll it up into there and we can tweak it later if
Yeah.
we wanted to, because all
Okay.
of this is talking about different buckets of engagement. So learner engagement, teacher engagement, administrator engagement is really what it's all engagement just on the various aspects.
Yeah.
Now, 6 and 7 kind of go together because like leveraging insights, performance-based, outcome-driven, that's, they're very close. And they're about matrix and looking at matrix,
Yeah.
looking at data, making decisions on data.
I
So
agree.
that's kind of like interrelated.
Which
I-
one?
6 and 7?
6 and 7? Okay,
I
great.
think
Which one
7's
belongs on the top?
I'm sorry, I didn't know my got
Do you think
refreshed.
7's up or 6 is up?
Oh, just that doesn't matter.
I think 7's up, performance-based, because leveraging the insights would be leveraging those outcomes.
Either way.
I think number 9 can go up underneath engage 3.
The thing here that's missing is like maybe not necessarily being in the classroom, but a 10 is out in the community and hearing somebody say to a student, wow, you must have graduated from Osceola. Can't wait."
Or the community engagement part maybe is what's missing from number 3, because we got this holistic engagement thing where we got the learner, the student, the administrators, but where's the
Yeah,
where's the
and we're
community?
coming out of the district or
But we
the
do have
school.
community mentioned in number 5. We said
Just
board
that we have
receives trust
trust
from the
from them,
community
so I
board members.
could-
and-
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
community
So that's in
board
5.
members are allies in this journey.
If
Do we
not,
wanna pull the community from 5 out and put that in holistic engagement, or do we wanna leave this?
I like it
No,
where it
no, no.
I
is.
do too.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
That is
Okay,
its own category. It's all
John,
about-
based on that, is there
That's
something,
external and external then.
is there something that we need to add, John? Or is there something that we just need to add as a sub-bullet, or is there something that you were pointing at with the community piece that's missing?
I think that would be the end state goal that we all agreed on in terms of those markers of, seeing those markers of excellence would be the defining moment, right?
Or we can even name number 9 markers of excellence. All A schools, 100% graduation rate, either attendance in college, trade, and military. I can consider that markers. That's a good tagline for that, markers of excellence.
This is gonna be a lot to live up to.
Yeah,
Listen,
Well, you create
That's why
utopia.
we
Isn't that the
hired them.
purpose of strategic plan? Is to
Listen,
create utopia?
the-
We may not get there, but.
correct. Everything within the strategic plan should be things that we work towards, and it should be aspirational. Should be. So, I think that everything that's been discussed thus far actually speaks to, I think, a much more current version of what we should aspire to be. And I think that, if this is the start of the process, I feel very good about where we're headed, regardless of how challenging it may be. I hope it's challenging. It's got to be challenging. It shouldn't be something that, our staff should be able to achieve in a year. It should be something that we work towards operationalizing every day for multiple years, because we will never arrive. We will never arrive.
That's right.
But the idea of showing up every day is you still work towards that end, and you claw and you fight to get to that end. Even if you may not actually get there, we strive for progress, not perfection. And that's
Creating
where we're
the
going.
trajectory.
Yes, exactly. So as long as we're moving in the right direction, and we're moving towards that end, then that's a good place for us to be. It's when progress is stagnant or going the other direction that we absolutely need to stop, look, reframe, and change. We need to adjust fire when that occurs.
Right.
So, and so, I don't know if this is a good place for us to kind of say this, because I know you're about to leave, but
That's good.
I mean, I was going to say, I am probably more enthused about the work after this initial conversation than at any point I've been since I got here.
we love it.
Honestly, this is putting us on such a good path, and I think that the one thing that I really wanted about the feed, and hopefully the sound is good. We'll see. We'll get it fixed if it's not. But I think that our public needs to be able to see that when it comes time to sit at the table and really get into long-term planning around this district, we are in a position to go ahead and work together towards that end.
Yes.
And the public should feel very good about the conversation that started this morning and that will continue. I got to tell you, I think our staff will be very excited when this starts coming into shape and coming into form. And I think that we have 4 leaders around this table that will universally be in a position down the road to enthusiastically go out and be able to sell this to the community as a great new way to look at our district and where we're headed for students and where we're headed as a value driver for the community. So I mean, I feel very good about it. It's worth wearing a suit today.
They make fun of us because we're all
Good.
agents.
John, one of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the interview is there's a reason why we use a perfect 10.
We're in speakies.
And the reason for that is that if you think, we talked a little bit about mastery earlier, okay? And what we're really doing is establishing the standards of mastery for success in the district. And now we're saying the 10 looks like this, and then we can say if that's our 10, where are we right now? Well, we're a 3. Great. What's it gonna take to go from 3 to 4? Not 3 to 10.
Right.
10 is a distraction once you have it as a point of reference. But if we can march down and make investments, even with the limited time and resources we have, very intentionally on the few things that will move the needle, that's how we get there.
The last thing I want to say on that is to add to that 10 is leveraging technology to its fullest.
Yes.
You know, whether that's technology that's there, whether it's an application program to help them learn, whether it's the device and teaching them how to submit emails and some of the basic blocking and tackling of
Yeah.
using technology in the future. So just leveraging that technology to the max.
100%. 100%.
All right. Mason, thank you.
So I did get the top 10. See? So Terry was
I
right.
trust
You guys need to vote.
Okay, let's vote.
Okay, got it? Ready? Let's go.
1, 2, 3. You only get 2 votes. You get 2 up votes and
All
one
right, let
down.
me tell you.
You don't even need to do the down vote because you guys are all in really good alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do it.
One.
Sure, I think you should be wearing those shoes every day.
Trainers.
There's only 3.
She's wearing dunks.
I don't know what that means.
SB dunks.
No.
What?
SB dunks. SB dunks.
I go.
What are SB dunks? Are those Nikes?
Yeah, so they're like these, they're like
Skateboard edition.
Oh. I got the mom shoes on today.
No, those are forces, aren't they?
Yeah, but they're the mom's versions because they're platforms.
The platform. I have the platform Converses.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you, Board Member Dr. Melendez.
Dr. Melendez.
Has to take over? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Awesome. Talk to you later.
All right. Of course, now we've got a tie on 4 and 5.
What? Aw, man.
Oh, do we have a tie?
Yeah.
Well, we got 3 here.
All
I'm not
right,
breaking any ties. I'm not doing it.
So,
Chandra, do you want to come over here and break this tie? Or we can break dance for them. Break dance for the tie.
There will be no more dancing. of
to
any
me, there's
kind after
a
mine.
relationship between 4 and 5. Because markers of excellence and then performance-based outcomes, they're not the same exact thing, but on principle, they're pointing at the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the difference is between the two that markers of excellence involves the community and then performance-based does not.
It's more fun. Yeah, it's more generic. So
More internal.
would we say that markers of excellence visible to the community would be the precursor? Like if we're doing anything that's performance-based, it has to be fundamentally visible, and this kind of gets us back to that whole integrity and excellence in the community and being accountable to outcomes.
Well,
Would you level that one up because of that? Like, what are you thinking, Terry? I'm just gonna go look at the why again. Like in our why, the number one reason for the why was district brand integrity and excellence extending through the community. That was our number one reason for the why. So for the 10, we're trying to run, maybe one of the things that we might want to do too, even though Julius is gone, is to kind of scan back through the what, the why, and the 10, because what we really want to do is kind of run the red thread, right? There should be cohesion.
yeah, I agree. who do you,
Mark, can I borrow your badge?
You have it. Okay. I knew that I'd still.
need the whole time?
I knew the whole time. Sure you don't need another coffee?
I mean, I guess I could see how performance could level up to being one of the markers of excellence. If we want to combine those. So a marker of excellence would be to have performance-based outcomes.
Would you want to leave them separate and then just leave them in the order that they're in so that markers of excellence visible within the community is just, because it's just basically to break the tie. With markers in excellence, if we re-voted, let's just do that.
We're gonna revote.
We're gonna re-vote between 4 and 5. Mark, I loved how you set up the cascading and the feedback for this.
Yep.
That feels important.
Oh, it is, for sure. You know, I think that it's gonna be important to talk with you, talk with the board members around at what steps we go out there and have those conversations, because that will require a short break in the development process. So is it better for us to get through a few steps, then package that, send it out, elicit feedback, come back, revise, and then move on to the second component?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, the minute you do this, and I don't know, John, if it was you who kind of initiated this part of the conversation, but the best situation that you're in is that you solicit feedback and then you make changes based on that feedback. Then it's their plan.
Yeah.
Right? Like the minute that they're a part of that process, now it's our thing. It's not just something that we did in the ivory
That's right,
tower.
yeah.
And I think that's powerful if you're starting to build plans. I mean, investment strategies off of our plan.
Right. Totally agree. Okay. Good,
There's
good.
a lot of integrity in a process like that. And that's a real thing. Like, how can you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't pretend like that's something that's going to happen
Are we
later.
saying this is ownership?
It's a little bit like that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that sounds good. No, I appreciate that.
All right. We do have a final section in here around obstacles and threats. I'm going to leave that for now. I feel like obstacles and threats is something that we can incorporate into the final discussions, especially after we've done feedback
Yep.
and other things like that,
Totally
just to
agree.
make sure that we don't have anything lurking.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that'll be a good place for us to be able, especially when sharing with the public. We'll be able to level set where we are at this point in the process, because I think it's important for folks to also understand that we're not really at the details portion.
Yeah.
So, people will come with their own perspective, but I think it's important for us to share that, we're still at the here.
Yeah.
And that we want their feedback. But we're also gonna have other points in this process where you can be very, very specific and granular about the type of feedback that you want to provide relative to one particular thing. And that this still kind of sits kind of very high up. This is the 30,000 foot.
Yeah, I don't know if this is visible. I hope this felt different than other visioning planning sessions that you had, especially with outside people. Because vision and mission can turn into pontification and strategy, and we're going to use buzzwords, and we can be strategic thinkers, and that's all fun because it's pretty abstracted from ever really making a difference because it sits way up here. And one of the reasons why we vote on things is that what we're trying to do, even though we're up top, like we're already laying breadcrumbs to build the bridge. Because if we know the things that matter most and what we talked about, and we force ourselves to continue to go back to that, it's not just the statements that matters, it's what matters most within the statements. And that's what you're aligning to, because if your constituents and these other interest groups that you got to go collaborate with around this, they need to understand that. Like, these are the statements, but this is what's at the center of that. This is what matters most to us. This is what we've got to be a 10 on eventually. It creates a lot of space to collaborate. Right, like I really appreciated the work that y'all did today. It's always an honor to be a part of this process. With, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of horsepower and passion, and a lot of experience, and a lot of commitment. There's a lot of different personalities. By the way, there's nothing unique about that. All leadership teams are like this. So I really appreciated my time with you today. I'll be working with Mark to figure out what the best set of next steps are in terms of translating this. But just to be clear, it's going to be close to the way that it looks right now, because if you want to go get feedback from people, you don't want to make them feel like you already wordsmithed it all out and we're really just doing this to just check the box. Like, this is a real thing. It really does matter. We want to really make sure we're in alignment now. That way, when the investments and the priorities start coming in the second and third step, nobody's surprised, right? Anything you would add?
No, I think you got it.
Terry,
All good.
final thoughts? John?
No, thank you for this experience. It's been good.
Thank you for letting me be here
Yeah.
with you today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
All right, with that, we're adjourned.